So yesterday we built the input box to do input, where user was able to put something here and he was able to update the state variable to do. And when user was clicking the add button, we were saving the information in the array, and that array is created in the to do page. That is the set to dos. So if user is trying to add one record, it will be to do. But when user will click the add button, it will update this to dos state variable, and set to dos is the function to use that one. Now, if you see to do page, in the to do page, I call the header here, I call the to do input also, I call the to do listing also, I call the to do footer also. So what I want to tell you now is, so to do page calls to do input, it also calls to do listing, it also calls header, it also calls the footer. Okay, so all these files are called in the to do page. And when we were doing the header, we created a test case in the header file with the header.test.js. So we separately tested the header file in the header.test.js. We will now separately test this to do input in the to do input.test.js. We will separately test the to do listing.test.js. We can separately test this to do footer. We did it. We already did this .js, and the header was done in the header.test.js. So rather than going into individual file and test it, I could have done same test cases directly in the to do page, because to do page can hold all these components. So when I do the render of to do page, like we do the render of the header page, header component, we could test the header component, but I could have tested header by directly calling the to do page component, and in that to do component we could have got all the test cases, and we could have tested it together in the one component, that is to do page. But what we decided to test this separately, this separately, this separately, this separately. So that makes our logic maintainable, because we are testing this separately. But I just want to tell you that we could have tested it together also in the to do page. And also we can do to do page when we are doing the integration testing. Integration testing means if we want to do, the combination of two components together, then we can directly do in the to do page rather than doing it separately. Okay, so that is another reason to do the to do page testing. So right now we will only concentrate on individual components here, and if anything remains in the end, then we will fix in the to do page component also. Okay, so let's go to now test the to do input component today. So for testing this to do component, I will create a new folder __ test __. So this folder I created. Now I will create a test file to do input.test.js. Now I will copy something from the header.test, the top part, and I will put it in the to do input test. And here I will call the to do input. Okay, so let's start off writing our first case. So before writing our first case, let me run it. This one, I'll run this test. Okay, yesterday if you see, I was not able to see all the files. So we need to do some changes in the package.json. Let's go to package.json file, and here I will, in addition to coverage, I will also say -- watch all. When I say watch all, it will watch all the files. So yesterday I was not able to get all the files somehow with some problem with my node, but with this statement, I should be able to see all the lines. Let's check it. I will run the npm run test. So right now it will test this footer, header, and to do input. Since we haven't created anything in the to do input, and that's the reason it is saying missing argument. Otherwise, if you go with the header is 100% done. Footer is also 100% done. So now let's concentrate on the to do input part. So I will write down some description to do input, and here I will create an arrow function, and I will start with my first test. Right now I will say renders the component. It will just check the renders the component. I will make it arrow function. So it will test whether to do input is rendered or not. So this is the first test which we are trying to do it. So before I write any test, just write down this statement which I will give you in the React Telegram group also. Just copy paste it and let's see, and run the test case and see if it is passed. Now this is the to do input one. Right now it says 0, 0 here. So it doesn't matter if we have 100 here. We should have 100 in all the cases. It is 100% statement, 100% branch, 100% functions, 100% lines. We should have 100 in all the cases. So just put this one and run the test and see if you're getting same thing as I'm getting it. Till then I'll run the npm start to see it in the browser. You have 1 minute to write down this to do input. Okay, so I hope you have completed this. If you're not done, just do it along with me. So let's try to write down our first test case. Should render the component. Okay, so what I will do, I will call the render statement as we do here, the test case like this. Okay, I will, no, not this one. Okay, so I will call this render part. Let's call the render part. And in the render, I will call the to do input. And what parameters I need to pass for the to do input? Let's see in the to do page. In the to do page, when I call the to do input, I need to call the to do input with these two number of parameters. So we have to pass these two things to the function. Okay, so let's try to copy these two. Now we have to see what things we have to pass here. Okay, what things we have to pass it here in the set to do or in this here. So when we really write the things here, we generally have this function, real function in the like when we do the to do input. But when we go to the test cases, we don't pass the real function in the test cases. So we need to pass some dummy functions, and that function I'll tell you what function we will pass it here. Before going that, I just want to test if site is working fine. Okay, so this is our website. I will try to put some item, and you will see one task is there, and you will see to do item is also there. So we have our site is working fine. All tasks are going here as an object. which is correct. Now what I will do, so I know the site is working fine. I'll uncomment this part. Now you will see we have the set to do function and the calculate number of incompleted tasks. So we cannot pass the real function here. We need to pass the dummy function. So let's create a dummy function called as mock function, func. And this function we will say jest.fn. So what we are doing, we are trying to do the mock function, which is the jest.fn, and I will, instead of the set to do, I will call this mock function. Here also I'll say mock function. So we are not passing the real function, we are passing the mock function here in the render. After I pass the mock function, we have to do some testing like we do it here, like this one, get by text, and or we expect something, right? So after I call the render to do input, I want to see what a screen looks like. So what is the HTML part which I am going to test it? So here I am putting get by text of the mango. So here, before I really write something like this, I want to see what is there in the screen. What should I will be testing it? So right now I know here mango will be there. So I was just writing directly. But here I will first check what things are there in the screen before writing any expected statement. So after the render, I will just say screen.debug, and debug will give me complete HTML what I am trying to test it. Okay, so when I write down the debug, you will see this is the part I got in the debug. And here I want to see what I am trying to test it. So here one is the class input container. We have add to do task. We have the input tag, and we have the button add to do task. So the component is rendered, and that same thing I am able to see it. Now it's up to you how you want to see that component renders correctly. Either you can test it this part, or you can test this part, or you can test the placeholder, or you put some ID here and try to test that also. So because if component is rendered, anything, this part will be there, and you can try to test anything, whether you try to test this part or anywhere, anything you can test it. So let's try to test this placeholder text. That way I will know that input box is also rendered correctly on the page. So let's try to do testing on this placeholder part. So what I will write down here, I will say constant element is equal to screen.get by placeholder text. And what text I am trying to test? I am trying to test this add a new task here. I can directly write down this one here like this, or I can also put a regular expression and put like this. Okay, so let's put like this, and I will, in the end I will say I means case insensitive. So if it is capital or small, it doesn't matter. And now I will check this element if this element is rendered or not. So I'll say expect element to be in the document. Okay, like we did here, to be in the document. And I'll remove the debug for now. I will add it later whenever I need it. Now I will save it again to run the test again. So it's saying that element is, okay, so it's saying get all by. I by mistake put all by. I wanted get by placeholder text. Because if I use get all by, we will get array, not this field. Now it is passed. Now you will see, initially it was coming array, but now as soon as I changed, all text has passed, and I am able to see the element in the screen. Okay, so that means I render the component. Instead of render the component, I will say render the input element. Okay, so first test is done. I was able to get the input element in the to-do input. Let's see how much percentage is done. Right now, if you see 30% of the test case is done, we have to write more. And here it is saying what lines number are pending to make this 100%. So we have to take care of 7 to 19 number of lines and 30 number of lines. Okay, so before I go further, just write down this test case and see if it is passed or not as I am getting it. I'll give you in the React Telegram group. Is it done? Okay, so let's write down the another test case now. So first test case was to just see whether input element is there or not. I will write down another test case. I will see now. Should be able to type into input text box. This is the test case. We should check whether when I'm typing in the input box, it is working or not. Okay, so for that, I will do same thing. This render part will be same. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll try to get the input element as I did. This is the input element. I'll check that input element here. So this I'm taking the input element by the same way at this one. Now what I will do, let's do the screen.debug here. Console.log 1, and after console.log 1 I will say screen.debug. And now what I will do, I will try to do something such that it will write the text inside the input box. Let's do that one. Okay. Okay. So what I will do, we have to do something that it put some value in the value 1, and if value is there, that means it is it is working fine. So we have to check whether something is there. When I try to change it, it should show some value here. So what I will do, so what we are doing here in the input box, we are trying to change something. So we need to call the change event here in my input test. So how to call the change event? So for that, I will add one more parameter here that is called fire event. Okay, I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, so I have to add this functionality fire event because we need to test the on change. Whenever you want to check on change or on click, you need to call this fire event module of the React testing library. And now we will call this fire event, and we will call this on change behavior, so that we should really see that we are changing something in this input box. So what I will do here, after I get the element, when I say element, it means that I got this input box. So this element means I got this input box. Now what I will do, I will fire event. Which event I want to fire? You can fire blur, you can fire click event, you can fire change event, you can drag enter, drag in, whatever mouse events are there or keyboard events are there, you can choose any one of them. So here, which one I want to fire? Can anyone tell me whether I want to fire change or click? So we have to call the change event because this is the change event in the input box. So I will say fire event dot change. And when I change it, so which element I am checking for the change? I am checking for the element, this element. So I'll put this element here. And what I want to change it. So here if you see, it goes as an event, and in the event we have target and value. So consider that we are trying to pass E, and E is the object which is a target, and inside target we have the value. So if we want to put same thing here, we will create object, and in the object I will say target, and then I create another object where I will say value, and I will put something here, for example mango. So what it means? It means we are trying to change this element which we got from here, and what I'm trying to change, I am trying to pass this object target dot value. So whatever I am passing, it will be passed to say to do function, and it will update the to do value, and the value will be seen with the updated value which I have passed it here. To see this exact event, I will call the screen.debug again to see what's happening in the screen. So screen is something what is happening, you can see in the screen what things are happening. Now I'll check what is things is coming in the screen. So first we will go with the console.log1, which is written before I call the fire event change. And if you see in the debug, I can see the value is empty because we don't have that any value in the beginning. And then I call the element and I change. And with the change, I call the target value equal to some value. Now I'll again check the screen and console.log. If you see again check the screen, you will see the value is coming as mango because I passed mango here. So that means with the fire event change, I was able to change the value of this input box. Now after this change event, we have to check if this value is mango or not. If this value is mango, that means our code was correct and we successfully run the changes and run the test case successfully. So how to check this value? I will say expect element, because we are trying to check this element, and in the element we have to check the value, and value should be, so whenever I want to make it should be, I will use to be, and to be what it should be, mango. So before fire event I was having value of null, and after fire event I have the value of mango, and that's the reason I'm trying to test this element dot value should be equal to mango, because here I triggered the change event with the value mango, and the value should be equal to mango. Let's run it and see. Okay, so now you will see that all test cases are passed and to do input has now gone to 40%. It was 30% before, now it got to 40%. So before you write down this test, is it clear what I explained? Did you understood what I mean by change event and what we have to check after we trigger the change event? No reply. So I think you have not understood. Let me explain it again little bit. So first I render the to do element, that is this component to do, and then I try to take the element by calling the placeholder text. And what is the placeholder text? Add a new task here, which we see it here. So with this line of the statement, I was able to capture this input box. Now I will call the fire event on this input box, and which event I will call? I will call the change event. And what value I will pass? I will pass the value of target of value equal to mango. Whatever I will be passing here will go inside the on-change event in the form of the E. So whatever I am putting it here will go as a E. So when I'm trying to get it E dot target, it is going E dot target dot value equal to mango. And it is trying to set to do with the value which I have passed it. And when it set to do is called, it will update the state variable to do, which will be displayed here in the value with the updated value which I have passed it. So after this line of event, I will check whether element dot value has the value of mango or not, which I try to change it. And if it is same, that means the tests are valid. If I try to make this as a mango 1, and it will fail because I'm in the value field, it is mango, and I'm trying to say it as a mango 1, so it will fail. Why it is failing? Because it is expected mango 1, but it is getting mango, which is this one. So we have to keep both same to make the test pass. Now it is clear, or still you have doubts? Okay, so if it is not clear, you have to do a lot of these things so that it becomes clear. Okay, so I'll give you this in the Telegram chat and you try to copy it. I'll give you 1 minute to copy this part. Okay, so let's do it again. Now I will take this button and I will take this button and I will trigger the click event on this one. And then when the button is clicked, what should happen? This function should be called add to do. And in the add to do function, we are resetting the to do value equal to empty. So that means when I click this button, the value of input box should be empty. So this value should be empty. If value is there, that means this button is not called properly, and then that means it is not working as it is, correctly. Okay, so let's do that one now. So here I will name it another test case. Test should have empty value in the input when button is clicked. Okay, so we are creating one test case. So when I click the button, this one, it calls this function, and then the set to do should be empty. That means to do value will become empty, and that means this value will become empty. I can also put one of the data test ID for accessing this button. I can say add button. Okay, so add to do button. Okay, or I can use the roll by button, or I can use the if I use this text, the text are matching, so it will not work with the text. So better is we can add the test ID. It will help us in directly accessing it, or I can access using the roll by button. Okay, we can do that also. So let's try to get this button also. So first thing is what is the task we have to do? We have to take the element and we have to change the element with some value like mango. And then I have to call the button and I have to click the button. After the click of the button, I have to check again this input box. And in the input box, value should be null. Without clicking the button, the value of input box will be the same thing which I am putting it here. So let's try to do the same thing here. I will start with the render part, which will be same. And then I'll take the element. This is the input element, which is same. Here I will also take the button element, which will be nothing but screen dot get by test ID. And what test ID I'm trying to check? I'm trying to take this test ID. So this is the button element which we got, and fire event of change will happen to this element, and fire event of click will happen to this button element. So let's try to do the change event again like this before. And here I will just put some different letters for clarity, Apple. And after I put Apple here, first I will check what happens in the screen. So I will write down the screen.debug. Let's check what happens when I write down the Apple. Okay, so when I run this screen.debug after the change event, after the change of element to this value, you will see my form is there and the value of the input box is Apple. Now, as soon as I will trigger the button element with the click event, the value of input box should become empty. Why it should become empty? Because we will be calling this function add to do. It will go here and it will set the set to do equal to empty value, and to do will become empty, which will go into the input box as a empty. So as soon as I click the button, this will become empty. So let's try to do that. I will say fire event dot click, and here I will pass the button element, And with the button element, I can also pass some parameters if we want, which will go here as a e event. Okay. Right now I'm not putting it, but if I get some error, I will try to put here also. Okay. So as soon as I click here in the button, you will see the value has become empty. Why it is become empty? Can anyone tell me? The reason is it calls this function add to do, which will set it to empty. And that is the reason we are getting this value as empty. Is that clear, this part? What I'm trying to say. If I don't put this button click event and I try to see now you will see the value is apple. But as soon as I put here button element with the click, you will see the value has become empty. Okay, so let's try to check this now. Now we know that value is empty. So what I will do now? I will do now element expect element dot value is to be empty string. Okay, so now it is passed. If I try to check with Apple, then it will fail because after the button event is clicked, the value has become empty. Now it got one failed because it's saying expected is Apple, but I'm getting nothing. So we have to make it Apple like this. So just try to do this test. I will give you in the Telegram chat. Okay, so just try to do this test one. And try to, after this class, try to write down each line yourself. Try to do each line yourself because you will understand it better way. Otherwise, you will forget. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Just by the time you write down this and try to test it. Okay, I am back. Let's see how much percentage we are done with this line of statement. So if you see in this input one, we got completed 70% here. And still 10 to 16% is not yet done. 10 to 16 line number. So that means this 10 to 16 line number, we are still not able to complete it. Okay, so generally we need to fix this part also. We need to test this part also. We need to write some test cases so that we can fix this part also. Okay, so that part, this part we will do tomorrow, how to fix this part so that it should go 100%. My whole aim is that it should always goes to 100%. You know, we should try to do that in every case. You know, but sometimes when you work with a complex thing, it's not possible, but we will be trying to do that also. So for today, this is all we will do, and tomorrow we will fix this part, and then we'll take another page to do the testing. Any questions? That's all for today.